Let me talk at ya. Welcome one and all to Not Just A Guy, the show about, by, and for struggling storytellers. I'm your host, not just a guy, the guy, Garrett Briones. And folks, if you look at the logo, it says with Garrett Briones and Emily Briones, or Garrett and Emily Briones. I'm solo today. Emily was not able to make it to today's record. She's a very busy woman doing a lot of hard work. We want to make sure we're giving her space, make sure we're giving her ability to recover from it, because she is, we've talked on the show, she is working a full-on editing gig, and we don't exactly live close to where she lives, and so it's a big undertaking every day. She's doing a lot, and we respect her, and we want to, we don't want her to get too tired, because she's not only editing at work, she's editing this very podcast, she's editing the audio drama Crusades of the Nexus, coming soon-ish. We're still working on that, trying to get that out to the people, but we want to be able to, we talked a lot on the show about burnout and breaks and things like that, and we would be hypocritical if we didn't follow that ourselves. She and I have both talked about that, and we want to make sure that we are keeping and holding that space and doing that and making sure that we're keeping ourselves accountable in taking care of ourselves, I would say. And so today is just a solo episode, just me, the guy, and I am still in an interesting spot. As I just mentioned, Crusades of the Nexus is still something that I'm working on and constantly thinking about. I've been writing a lot, although at this point in time, I'm on a little bit of I'm not on a break. I'm in a holding pattern. I've talked about this on recent episodes, where it's like I am actively working on stuff. I'm always thinking about something, and I actually I'll talk about some things I've been working on in the sense of like trying to organize and trying to not let things be so like nebulous, and I'll refine what I'm saying in a second here. I'll define what I'm saying in a second here, and I'll refine it and define it. I mean it in both ways. But things have been very weird. I have been consistently writing. I finished another audio drama script. That one, I don't know exactly how many pages that one has clocked in on, because I took a cue from my good friend and mentor, Jonathan London. I've mentioned him many times before on the show, the founder of Geekscape, a director, film professor. He shared something on Instagram that I saw, and I was like, I should do this. And maybe anybody out here could, maybe some people sympathize with what I'm about to say. I find that sometimes when my creativity is put in boxes or formats or things like that, it just become a chore. So it's like, for example, I've been writing a lot of audio dramas. I've written a lot this year. I'm actually really proud of myself, not to pat myself on the back. I've written a lot of pages this year, and I've written about 5 volumes of something shorter. So when I say volumes, let's define this a little bit. Crusades of the Nexus Season 1, Volume 1. Crusades of the Nexus 1, if we even want to call it that. It is, I consider it a volume, and it is, at the moment, is 5 episodes. Now, some of those vary in length. I think 2 episodes are like 30 some odd minutes, or 30 some odd pages, I should say. I think one of them cracks 60 pages or so. And I might have 2 that crack 60. There's one that is it's a big one. And it has a lot going on, a lot of time, not timeline, but like flash forwards, flashbacks, like things like that. While all staying with one character, but we're seeing so many things through his eyes. They all have like a set, so like those numbers go up. But what I'm saying when I say volumes is I'm writing something that is a side project to Crusades of the Nexus, and it's simpatico with it. It is hand in hand with it, but it's also its own separate sort of beast. So it has its own kind of format, its own kind of structure, and it is informing some other Crusades of the Nexus stuff. So that one is, again, it's different. It's a lot more, I'm almost kind of writing it like a feature film, but that is broken up into 3. Like I break it up into chunks. It helps me write it that way. And I find that it has been an eye-opening experience, but I try to subscribe to the idea of 5 pages a day. I either do, sometimes I've done a scene a day. I usually try and do 5 pages a day, or if a scene is like a shorter scene, then I'll just do that. Like if I write a scene that's happens to be 4 pages or 6 pages or 7 pages, I'll write the whole scene, because it's like, what's the point of stopping if I'm almost done? But I have mainly been focusing on 5 pages a day. But when it's like whether it's a day I have work or it's a day I'm just at home, when it's like, okay, I know that pretty much I'm going to wake up, go to the gym, come home, shower, eat breakfast, and then write, it starts to become like I don't like getting caught in that rigid structure, that rigid kind of schedule. So I tend to try and find a way to change up the format. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be just sitting at my desk and writing. I'll sit in the living room. And then that was fun when my laptop went kaput and I could no longer write on that. So I had to figure that out. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go and do it on. So Emily had an old laptop she was no longer really using. So I kind of inherited it and I kind of started doing work on it, but it's not the kind of laptop I'm really used to. It just didn't feel right. So I eventually just went back to going on the computer, and I just kind of changed up how and when I did stuff. And like even within recent weeks, I was kind of feeling that same where I was like, oh, it's starting to feel like a grind. It's starting to feel like a really, So the solution to that problem was I put on a different vinyl every writing session, and that was fun. I did enjoy that, but again, it was just like I just feel like I'm kind of it's just like right now it's mainly just writing. Like I haven't been directing much in a minute, so I don't have that to break it up. And I've only been doing for Crusades. I perform Crusades. I have that to sometimes break it up, but again, it's like I'm not even doing that. I've done some pickup lines and things like that, but there's not much going on in the way of even doing that. So it's like I just feel like I'm just in the same cycle. So to tie this all together, London had posted that Emma Thompson was on Colbert, and she talked about how writing on a legal pad and like how she preferred to do it that way, and then would go on to do it. And then London kind of said like, oh, that's what he does too. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I do that? Because I also realized I'm like, I don't write that much anymore. I mean, like occasionally at work, I have to fill out like very small pieces of paper. And by that, I literally mean like I write my name, I write like a sentence, and I write like, it's just like a slip I have to fill out sometimes. And I'm like, that's really the only times like that. And then when I sign my name electronically, like, at the store or something, I mean, not really even at the store. Like you're just not like maybe when I go to the dentist and I sign stuff electronically. I was just really realizing I'm like, I don't write anymore, and I already have awful penmanship, so my penmanship's probably getting worse because I'm not practicing or like keeping that as like a regular part of like what I do. And so I was like, why not try that? And I had a couple legal pads that I kind of started to use, and I used them to plan some story stuff for projects. And then I was like, well, I could just take the front pages off and I could just move them into like a notebook. And so I completely wrote the rest of this script I was working on. I had finished the first third, I typed that up. And so I was like, okay, for the next 2/3, let's just write it. Let's write it out and let's do that. And folks, I have to say that I really, really, really enjoy that because I wasn't as consciously thinking about like 5 pages. I wasn't thinking about how long I've been writing. I wasn't thinking about like, okay, well, I have to go sit at the desk. It's like, no, I could, sometimes I wrote a little bit. I like sat on the floor and I put the legal pad on the table, or like I just sat on the couch and I wrote some pages. I turned on, like I put music on the TV and I just listened to random stuff. And then like sometimes I can't write usually I can only listen to just like music that has no lyrics. Sometimes I can listen to music with lyrics and write. That I've gotten better about that. But like sometimes I was even able to listen to podcasts and write and like have videos playing. I can never do that. Like that's something that really never works. And I was able to do it with writing on the pad. And I was like, wow, this is just so much fun. Like I was having fun. And the beauty of it is because it's not on my computer where I have to walk all the way into the desk, turn on my computer, sign in, open up my writing software. I could just literally, anytime I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, I kind of have the energy to write some more. I want to write a few pages. Just grab the pad, keep writing, right? Even just a couple sentences, right? Finish a page, revise something. Like it was fun to do it that way. That has been like I really needed that. Like it brought me back to just being a kid in elementary school. Like I loved when we would write stories. Like, we'd make like little books, basically, where we would like write it on small little pieces of paper. Like we would write it on a like note paper first. Then we would get like smaller lined pieces of paper. I think it was lined. Or it was like, actually it was more like, I think it was like it had spots where we could draw pictures. So we could draw pictures and illustrate parts of the story. And then like, you would get like a piece of construction paper, staple it all together and make like a cover. It brought me back to that. Like I was like, I used to make like fun little stories there. And like, it was just so much fun back then. Why am I making my writing almost like, having to do some of it like a chore, And so I've gone back to that way of thinking. But I have completely fallen in love with writing that way. And it's how I'm going to write for the foreseeable future. And that's another thing. It's like and honestly, if anybody has suggestions, I would love to hear them. I am really bad at choosing what I write next. It happens by happenstance more often than not, because it's like I have all these things I want to write, and it's like I'm also in a place where the only things I can feasibly make right now are my audio dramas. Like we have gotten that recorded, and we're still working on some elements. That is something that conceivably I can make relatively soon. Short films, I would love to make one. They seem kind of far away. I'm hoping next year to really get a short made, or a short or two, working with a friend of the show, Campbell Russell Stratman, on making that a possibility. But I'm finding it's hard right now to just really plan and think about like, what can I actually do? And so it's like I have ideas. I want to write a feature. I'll be open and honest about this. I think I'll call it a weakness that I have not written a feature yet. I have not written a feature film. Now, you could argue I have written what I call Crusades of the Nexus, especially more so the sister project of Crusades of the Nexus. I've written what I call audio features. Like, that's kind of what we pitch our audio dramas as audio features. We're basically trying to make feature films, but just without the visual component. I'm finding that I worry that because I don't have a feature written, I won't be taken seriously, I guess. So it's like, do I write a feature just to get dip my toes in that? Am I writing these things just to kind of stash them away? I think I've ultimately decided that I am going to more so focus on writing a few short films. I have a 3-part sort of trilogy idea in mind that I think I'm going to do. And then I want to write a micro budget feature, because that's something I really want to. I want to try and make a certain amount of short films, and then I want to see with my friends and this team we're trying to put together if we can make a micro budget film. Do it for super duper uber cheap, but make it not look that way. That is something we are actively thinking about. I'm not going to say fully planning yet, but we're actively thinking about. Let's make a few short films, and then let's make a micro budget feature. Like, what do we have to lose? Well, like, let's just do it. Let's make a feature film, make it look as nice as we can on the budget we have, which is pretty much just however much money we have, and let's do it. Because the name of the show is Not Just A Guy, and it's because it takes more than just a guy to do things. The title means a lot of things, and that's one of the things it means is it takes a village. It takes a fully committed group of people, and I'm trying to build that with some people, with Emily, with Campbell, with our friend Chris Hall. We're trying to build something sustainable, something that can sustain our careers, our creativity, and eventually we can bridge it and have it be something that brings in a bunch of people, bridge it to our end goal, which is making a career in Hollywood. And that brings us to what I would call the title of this video, but also something I've been thinking about quite often, and that we talk about making it all the time on the show and what it even means to make it. How do you make it? What even is making it? But I've been thinking a lot about, what if I don't make it? And I'm not even doing it in like like the industry is dying, or like it's harder to get into the industry is thriving, but it's harder to get in. I'm talking about this all from a perspective of, what if I don't make it? What if I just don't get in? What if we make this micro budget feature and it doesn't catch anybody's attention? I've been talking about how making audio dramas and making Crusades has been my creative buoy. It has been my main creative outlet that's honestly helped me keep my sanity. What if it doesn't catch on fire? What if it doesn't catch people's attention? What if it doesn't turn into my calling card, like I hope it is, to propel me into film? What if I don't? What if I make a feature film that has a budget, that we get a big cast, we all are firing on every cylinder. This could be the thing that gets people's attention, and finally we can start being active players in Hollywood. We can actually make movies. We can do what we want to do. What if that doesn't happen? And I have been thinking about, what if I don't make it? What if I have to get a job? What if I have to find a job that will support my future family and isn't creatively, what I want to do? What if I have to not settle, but what if I have to just get something that pays the bills 9 to 5, supports me? What if it's not in the cards for me to be marquee name, written and directed by a film by a Garrett Briones film? What if that's not in the cards? That's something I've had to think about a lot recently. Just with how hard it is right now to even get the audio drama off the ground. How hard it is to pay bills with the job I'm working now, which I'll be honest, I love. This is one of the kinds of jobs I've wanted to work my entire life. Like ever since I've talked about, if you're not familiar, I work at a comic book store. If you don't know, my first love when it comes to storytelling and the mediums that we have it to tell stories in my first love is film. It's why I am a filmmaker. It's why I went to film school. It's why I watch movies up the wazoo. It's why I have Blu-rays and steelbooks and VHSs and all these things. I love movies. That is what I love to do. At the time of recording this, literally after I finish recording this episode, I'm going to the movies. I'm going to go see a movie. Tomorrow, I have a movie on the docket to go see. I got another one. I have 2 more scheduled for this very week. I love movies. And I'm probably, what I'm going to do when I get home from seeing that movie that I'm seeing today? I'm probably going to watch another movie. My second love. The thing I love almost as much as film when it comes to storytelling are comic books. I'm obsessed with them. And look, obviously I read a lot of Marvel, DC superheroes. I read a lot of those. In recent years, as I've gotten older, I have branched out into your Image Comics, your Dark Horse, your IDW, your Boom, all the other ones, because I just love comics. They're a beautiful medium. Where writing and just artwork meet and they coalesce and they're just beautiful. I just love them. I can't get enough of them. Believe me. I just asked my wife. As I'm recording this, I'm looking. I have so many of these big, beautiful omnis that I love. My omnibuses, just pages and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of beautiful artwork and just incredible writing and just some of the best coloring and lettering you've ever seen. I just can't get enough of the things. Can you imagine how awesome it is for me to work at a comic book store? To be in a place where I can read comic books on my breaks. When I go after I finish my lunch, I can just sit and read comic books till I have to go back to work. Or I just get a litany of comics that I can, every day I can discover something new, essentially. I don't know if you heard this, but the economy's not great. And I feel like we've been saying that for a while. So it's hard to make a livable wage anywhere. It's hard to, pay bills. And there's so many things. You have to think about insurance. You have to think about appointments. You have to think about anything can happen with your car or with, you need to get something. So you have to do like a payment plan, all these different things. So it's been really hard. And there's nothing more, I want more than to have a job in the industry. And I've, not for lack of trying, I've tried again and again and again and again. I've pushed that rock up the hill and that thing has gone right past and rolled over me and gone back down the hill. And it's like, you're told this is what you need to do. You need to get an internship. You need to become an assistant. You need to be a PA. You need to do yada-da-da-da. You need to do yada-da-da-da. And then eventually maybe someone will eventually give you a shot to do this role on a set. And da-da-da-da-da. And da-da-da-da-da. And then eventually you can AD. And then ha-da-da-da-da. Ha-da-da-da-da. And then eventually you can maybe possibly direct. I'm in my late 20s. I very openly talked about on here how I had a very big existential crisis last year. Just thinking about time and age and things like that. And I'm not getting any younger. None of us are. I hate to break it to us. And that scares me because I'm like, there's no set time when you're supposed to quote unquote make it. You see all these people that have great success later in life, or takes them to get till they're in their 30s or 40s to have their big break. My worry is just, I don't think on paper I'm appealing. And what I mean by that is because you look at all these film jobs that you can apply for, most of them want you to be in college, and I'm not in college anymore. Hey, I got the degree to prove it to you that I'm not in college anymore. But nobody wants that degree. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's a piece of paper that I I fought for, I worked hard for. I'm not going to say I bled for, but I sure as heck sweat for. And I feel like nobody cares. No one on a piece of paper, they don't care. They don't know what I went through to get that. They don't know that I had all these hoops to jump through because of the pandemic. They also don't know that school doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It is whatever shred and semblance of it is gone. Thrown into the ether, thrown into the eternal flame of the universe. They don't know that. They don't care. Because I'm not currently enrolled in the school, I can't get an opportunity. And this is an industry where opportunity can either lead to nothing or opportunity can lead to opportunity, to opportunity, to opportunity. And so I think about, well, if I'm not, how can I possibly make it if I'm told that I need to start at the bottom and work my way to the top? How can I ever hope to make it if there's not even an opportunity presented for me to start that path? Do you think a lot about that? I think a lot about, I come on here and I say, like, you need to be the guy. You need to be the girl. You need to be the person you want to be, you see yourself as. You need to be the best version of yourself. Present that person to the world. And if you do that, theoretically, you should prevail. You should, but even if you don't, you still see yourself as that person. I call myself the guy because I believe in myself and I believe highly in myself. As I hope most people do. I never want it to seem like I'm up my own butt. I have high expectations for myself and I want myself to reach what I think I can reach. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that quite often I don't believe in myself, that I don't think I'm the guy. And it's hard, okay? And I want to make it. But see, that's the thing. That's what we're coming back to. What if I never make it? Who decides I make it? And that's why I wanted to talk about this. Who decides who makes it? You do. You decide you make it. Yeah, sure, there's a certain level in this industry, in the film industry, really any industry, but I'm talking specifically about the film industry, that yes, if you are, raking in millions and you are getting projects greenlit up the wazoo, you're doing all this, you can kind of write your own destiny, and you've made it. You're there. You've done it, pal. But for me, making it, this idea of making it comes with complacency. It's a real thing that can happen. Not always happens, but it is a real possibility to happen. If you get too comfortable, if you think you're done, I'm saying it's never done. What if I don't make it? Then I'll make it some other way. If I never make it into Hollywood and become the director, writer, whatever I want to be, then I'm going to keep making my audio dramas. I'm going to keep making short films. I'm going to keep having fun. For me, I make it when I just get to keep having fun with my friends. That is the goal. And that is why I'm looking for like-minded collaborators, because this thing's supposed to be fun. It's about creating. It's about sharing ideas. It's about collaboration. It's about putting smiles on people's faces, or making people think, or making people sad, or making people angry. It's like, that's making it. When you get that. For me, if Crusades of the Nexus comes out and it means something to anybody, then I've made it, because what matters is the art. It's not about some position, some accolade. It's not about, you never chase the accolades. Never chase the accolade. That's what I learned. It's not about you don't make it when you're standing on a stage holding a shiny thing. That's never, ever, 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 ever what you should mark your success by, or whether you've become the guy, you've done it, you have the title. It's not like that. Yes, I take some of that idea of the guy from wrestling. I will make it as a storyteller when my stories mean something to anybody. And let me tell you, I've already made it. I've made people laugh with silly stuff I made in high school, like silly things I did in high school. Like we did some things before performances. In choir, I've made it as a storyteller. I've made it. College, I made a bunch of silly, short films and things like that. But also I made serious ones. Made ones that mean a lot to me. I remember one of my best friends, he saw it and he was like, he saw one that I made and he was like, that was really sad. It ended on a hopeful note, but he was like, that was really sad. And I was like, I've made it. I made something that made somebody feel something. My mom loves, my mom read a script that I wrote in college, and she still tells me to this day, I got to make this one. And I'm like, hey, I want to, I just don't have the budget. But even then, I've made it as a storyteller because that meant something to her. So what if I never make it? The joke of that the title of this episode, I've already made it. So it's like, I don't need to worry about like never making it and whether I can live with that or be okay with that. The idea I want to impart upon you today as a storyteller, whether you've written a short story that your friend read and they loved it and it made them cry, or you made a TikTok and it was like, you were playing all the characters in a TikTok series that you made, like a vertical that you made and you released there, and you saw in the comments like, oh my gosh, this is so funny, this made me laugh. Like it made me laugh till I was rolling on the ground feeling like I was gonna pee my pants. I said the ground. I'm getting so fired up. Whether you make a web comic and someone's like, dude, that ending made me so angry, and that was the point, you made it. Sometimes I have to say these things on the show so I know, so I can impart and embed in myself that this is what I need to think and how this, because this is how I feel. You have made it. I don't care if you're working a 9 to 5 that has nothing to do with being creative. If you're making edits out of like a role-playing thing that you do with your friends and people are enjoying that, you've made it. And also, if you never release any of these things, and you only share them with your friends, or even you just read them yourself, you just share them, you make them for yourself, guess what? You have made it as a storyteller. I need to stop defining myself as a storyteller based on what I release. Because look, I haven't released a lot at all. Bums me out, yeah. I wish I have. I had, and I wish I continued to. But guess what? I'm a storyteller. And I'm a successful one in my own way. You listening to this, you are a successful storyteller in your own way. Just because you haven't released a movie that's made like $1 billion. Like, that's not success. That's not truly making it. There is yes, in some ways and shapes and forms, that is a success. That is. As someone with a thriving film career, as someone who wants to keep making films and stuff like that, yes, it is. But as a storyteller, it is so important to just know that the stories you are telling, that in itself is beautiful. That sharing that, or not even worrying about sharing it, but just creating it, you have made it. You are a storyteller. No one can define whether you have reached a certain level of storytelling. This isn't an RPG. We're not leveling up. I mean, in ways we are, but we're not defining it by like that, So what if I never make it? What if I never make it in Hollywood? Whether I will or I won't, there's a lot of factors outside of my play, outside of what I can do really. But I've already made it. I'm a storyteller. I have this platform. I've made it. I'm making my audio dramas and I'm going to release them. So whatever making it is, and this is something when I have on guests, I'm going to keep asking them about. I've done it in the past and I'm going to do it in the future. Is like, what is making it and why does it really not matter if you do or you don't? There is no idea of making it because it is an ongoing, constant process. It's almost like a conversation, So whether I make it in Hollywood or not, make it in Hollywood, whether I become a fixture in Hollywood or not, I've made it as a storyteller. And I'm going to continue to tell my stories my way. And I have an outlet and I have outlets and avenues that I can explore, go down to keep doing that. So that's what I want to impart on you today is don't worry about how many short films you've made and released. Don't worry about if you've written, if you've written a feature. I still haven't. But I want to, and I'm going to. But I'm not going to keep beating myself up because I haven't yet. We all do things at our own pace. We all will in some way, shape, or form get to that destination, which is it's just telling our stories our way. And we are all already doing that, whether we know it or not. Just because it isn't a big blockbuster in theaters or something that's playing at a smaller theater, where you have a Q&A after. You have made it. You are there. You are the storyteller you need to be. And guess what? You'll only get better. You'll only get more opportunities. Even if you don't get those big opportunities that you think you need to achieve some crazy success or become the ultimate version of yourself, guess what? You're already that. And you will only get better. You can get better, but I don't want you to think that you have to just run yourself into the ground or sell out or just do all these different things that you do not have to suffer for your art. I never want to have to suffer for my art. I don't think that's healthy. That's just me personally. If I never make it, am I okay with that? Well, the joke's on you. I already have. That is going to do it for this edition of Not Just a Guy. Emily will join us again in the next edition. Have her back. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. You can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Not Just a Guy Pod. And you can support the show and all the stuff we're trying to cook up on patreon.com/Bachelor Class. All the information is in the description. I have been your host, Not Just a Guy, the guy, Garrett Briones, and I will talk at you next time. This has been a Bachelor Class production, hosted by Garrett Briones, edited by Emily Cunningham, music provided by Stephen Cruz. For more information, follow us at Bachelor Class.